All of us have blown it. None of us is totally perfect in every way, especially not me. So what do you do when you've messed up big time? This. Hey, welcome to Mornings with Bishop Robert. Thanks for joining me. Come on in, have a seat with me. My goal is to introduce people to the Jesus they never knew, and then help them get to know him and his word personally and better. So if our time together today speaks to your heart, let me invite you to like, subscribe, and then also share this with a friend. You know, one of the things I appreciate about living as part of the Christian communion that is the CEEC.Church is our determination to live a lifestyle of forgiveness. Sure, we're deliberate about walking in holiness, but we're just as deliberate about the way we walk through restoration. Today's verse lays a solid foundation for placing these two elements in context. Oh, what joy for those whose disobedience is forgiven, whose sins are put out of sight. Now, the verse presumes that we will all fall into acts of disobedience. Everyone makes mistakes and offends accidentally, and this verse is not addressing that. I mean, actual mistakes are not sin, because sin requires an act of the will that transgresses God's righteous standards and violates our faith. Hey, let's be honest with one another. We all have times where we just choose to do what we know to be wrong. For some of us, it's occasional and pretty much out of character. For others of us, it's habitual and reflects an area of life that we need to submit to the control of Christ. Addictions and other lifestyle choices control the lives of some and are in the process of wreaking utter destruction. The good news is that Christ has made a way of escape for us. The word gospel actually means good news. And the good news of the gospel is that Christ has paid the price for our sin, whether it's occasional, habitual, or life-controlling. He will break its hold over us and work his character in us, conforming us to his image. As we're conformed, we abandon sin and embrace righteousness. And that's good news. It's good news because sin is always destructive, always causes pain, never leads to peace and joy. When Christians speak of freedom from sin, it's not a condemnation of the sinner, who Christ loves, by the way, but a hatred for the sin which is killing the one that's trapped in it. God hates sin, but he loves us. And because of it, he leads us out of sin and into freedom. You know, many years ago, my doctor told me I had cancer. He knew the cancer was serious. He knew that if I ignored it, the cancer would eventually end my life. Now, along the way, that cancer would cause incredible pain and even impact my ability to lead or certainly enjoy any sort of normal life. Well, when he told me I had cancer, I didn't get angry with my doctor. I didn't accuse him of being judgmental. I didn't call him cancer-phobic or unreasonable. Neither did I decide to change doctors and find one who would just accept my cancer, allow me to identify as healthy. I recognized that his diagnosis and the suggested treatment plan were designed to save my life. Now, in my case, the treatment was surgery. It was painful. The repercussions impacted my life and my family for years. But I had something inside of me that was determined to kill me. and it had to be cut out. All of it had to go. Christ doesn't hate adulterers, thieves, liars, homosexuals, alcoholics, murderers, or any other sinners that you can categorize. He loves them all. And his church ought to love them as well. But loving someone means we care enough to identify the things that are killing them from the inside and destroying their lives. And we do this because we know sin is serious. We know that if sin is ignored, it will eventually end your life. And along the way, well, it'll cause incredible pain and eventually impact your ability to lead or enjoy a normal life. I think that ignoring sin or choosing to mislabel or misidentify it is cruel. Can you imagine my doctor telling me I was fine instead of giving me a truthful diagnosis? What excuse would I accept as reasonable in that case? That he didn't want to upset me? Or maybe he felt as though imposing his viewpoint on cancer would violate some right of mine? That's absurd. No excuse could be offered that would exonerate his malpractice for not giving me an honest report. But oh, what joy for those whose disobedience is forgiven, whose sins are put out of sight. For those whom Christ sets free, whose sin is forgiven, what joy. I've had controlling sins in my life, and Christ has dealt with them. And I have such joy in him now, such a capacity for compassion and grace. These are gifts from a loving God. And what about my sin? Well, my sins have been forgiven. They've been put out of sight and laid aside. In his incredible mercy and grace, God has chosen to hide them in his forgiveness. They're never to be recalled, for they've been covered by the blood of Christ. The largest financial obligation many people owe is either their home mortgage or their educational loans. Can you imagine what your reaction would be if you went into the bank to make your monthly mortgage payment or student loan payment and were told that the balance was zero? What joy! Gone forever? Well, the truth is the biggest debt you owe isn't financial. It's the price of your sin. The final price of sin is always the same: death. And the price will be paid. That's a certainty. The only question is this: do you want to pay it personally? Or do you want Jesus Christ to pay it for you? Those are the only two options on the table, friends. For those who choose Christ, what joy for those whose disobedience is forgiven and whose sins are put out of sight. Let's love in truth and walk people to freedom in Christ. Let's love them enough to share the truth and to share the path to real wholeness, holiness, life, and peace. And let's speak the truth in love, not condemnation, and be the hands and feet of Christ. Sin is deadly. It causes pain and destruction, but sin is not permanent. Christ can put an end to sin if you confess him as your Lord. Christ offers forgiveness. Christ restores, heals, conforms us into his image, and when he does, what joy for those whose disobedience is forgiven and whose sins are put out of sight. Wow, I've really run over on time this morning. Before you go, could I ask you to help me introduce people to the Jesus they never knew and help them get to know him and his word personally and better? Would you please like this video? It'll really help more people see it. Then if you would, click follow and subscribe so you and I can get together every day. If you click the link in the description, I'll send you a free copy of my book, Count to One. I'll pop it right in your inbox for you. Hey, one more thing. Do share this with a friend, please. Because as you do, that makes you part of the team, touching hearts all over the world with the love of Jesus. Thanks for helping.